My name is Nicole Mediation. I'm the Executive Director of On Screen Manitoba.
My name is Yenny Trin, and I'm the President of the Asian Heritage Society of Manitoba.
Hey, I'm John, and this is James, and we're from Red Rover Entertainment.
I'm Rachel Rusin. On behalf of all of us at Manitoba Film and Music, I want to take this opportunity and offer my congratulations to the FascinAsian Film Festival in its inaugural year.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna Wong, Executive Director of the Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. Congratulations on your inaugural FascinAsian Film Festival.
I'm Susan Hansen, Festival Director of the Vancouver Asian Film Festival. On behalf of the Vancouver Asian Film Festival, I wanted to express our heartfelt congratulations on the launch of FascinAsian Film Festival.
Hi, I'm Chris Fajner from the National Screen Institute. We are so proud and excited to be a part of the very first FascinAsian Film Festival. Congratulations to the whole team.
On behalf of the whole team here at On Screen Manitoba, congratulations to FascinAsian on your first year.
We're so excited to be a part of the festival as a sponsor, and a big congratulations to all of the members of the team who are putting the show together.
Our society is very proud to be a partner and sponsor of the festival, so congratulations.
Welcome to the first annual FascinAsian Film Festival. My name is Chelsey Mark. I'm an actor, screenwriter, filmmaker here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And yes, welcome to the FascinAsian Film Festival. Woo! All right. First and foremost, the FascinAsian Film Festival acknowledges that we live and work in the territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, and Oji-Cree nations, and the heartland of the Métis people. Treaty 1, signed in 1871, took this territory from 7 local Anishinaabe First Nations to make the land available for settler use and ownership. We thank the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities that have cared for Turtle Island since the beginning. With this acknowledgement, we remind ourselves of the discriminatory, racist, and colonial practices that have and continue to create barriers for Indigenous peoples and communities across Turtle Island. We are pleased to be celebrating Asian Heritage this month by sharing the stories of Asian Canadians here in Manitoba and across the country. But especially proud to be talking to the co-writer and director of the movie, Things I Do for Money. Please welcome Warren P. Sonoda.
Hello. Hey, Chelsey, how you doing? I'm actually saying hello from Toronto, which is on traditional Indigenous territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And I say hello to you over in Manitoba. How's it going?
Thank you very much. That was great. How are you today?
I'm great. You know, it's been a time, right? Not just the last year, but the last couple of months, which seems like several years now. But it's really nice to be here at FascinAsian in its inaugural start and to open the festival because I think we all need some celebration in times when it's been hard, man. It's been a hard time. So it's nice to kind of sit back and watch some great movies this weekend.
Yeah, well, we just watched your great movie, Things I Do for Money. And for all you, I'm just going to give you a quick intro so you can just sit back and revel in all your experience and accomplishments. So once again, we welcome Warren P. Sonoda. I hope I said that right. Sometimes Sonoda.
I also actually answered to William Sonoma as well, if you want. So, you know,
really? Well, William, here's your intro. BAFTA-winning, Emmy and CSA-nominated filmmaker Warren P. Sonoda is known for directing his features Cooper's Camera, Swearing at the Movie, Ham and Cheese, the iconic TV shows Trailer Boys, This Hour Has 22 Minutes, Murdoch Mysteries, Odd Squad, Utopia Falls, and over 160 music videos, which is unfathomable, 80 episodes of TV, and 11 feature films. Japanese-Canadian Sonoda is also the first person of color to be elected as a national president of the Directors Guild of Canada in 2020. Congratulations on that. You sit on the visioning board of BIPOC TV and Film. You are the chair of the Canadian Film Festival and knocked out Martin Scorsese out of the Guinness Book of World Records. I'll ask you about that a bit. Has a medal from the Queen, has a rescue dog from Mexico named Scruffy, and his new genre-bending passion project, crime/cello/caper movie, Things I Do for Money, which we just watched, is at our film festival, FascinAsian Film Festival, right now. So
Thank you for that introduction. You didn't have. I actually didn't want you to read the whole thing, but there you go. That's me. Thanks for introducing me. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, man, thank you so much for being here. And on a personal note, as an emerging filmmaker, I was just like, "Whoa, man, this is so great that you're going to be here." I'm like, "Oh, I get to host. Oh, okay, I'll do that."
You look fantastic, by the way. You're red carpet ready. I am. I'm sort of 9:30 ready for bed. So I have PJs on like below the t-shirt.
Well, that's cool. Well, so do I. So is this is movie souvenirs or what?
Yeah. Well, this is we had one cast and crew gift, and this was it for our cast and crew. And it actually, honestly, is one of the most comfortable t-shirts I own. We got some really nice t-shirts instead of the scratchy, polyester ones. So yeah, and making the film was just a joy. This was like we shot this in 2018, so this is a movie that keeps on giving, and to be able to kick off FascinAsian this year it's been a real treat. So thank you, Alan Wong, for remembering this movie.
Yes, namaste, Alan.
Yes, namaste.
So here, to be honest, it's like the first question is like, why did you make this film?
That's a good question to lead off. The why behind any movie, you were talking about the things I've done. I've done 11 films, and I think one of the things which became very apparent to me was because I had done 10 films before Things to Do, so I was on my 10th film, and none of them had starred Japanese Canadians in the lead, right? And it was a question of like, why is that? And if I was going to correct that, if that was something important to me, then I should go out and make a movie about that. And it coincided also with because I knew Max and Theo Aoki, who are the amazing stars and the cello playing brothers, real life brothers from Hamilton, Ontario, where the movie is not only filmed but it's set in Hamilton, Ontario. And I've known them for years because my co-writer Gary used to didn't really teach them, but knew of them through the school system in Hamilton because he's a teacher there. And like it just kind of morphed from a what if we wrote a movie about these two Japanese Canadian brothers from Hamilton, Ontario that played the cello. What if they stole a bag of money? What if this bag of money was wrapped up in a sort of a very layered crime story? Because I think also I wanted to make something fun and exciting. I've always wanted to make a crime film. It's one of the genres I've always loved. I've loved movies like Snatch and Heat, and there has never really been a Japanese Canadian crime movie, so we decided to kind of focus on that. And so the why of it is I wanted to make a movie. I wanted to make a little bit more of a personal movie, even though it's not a hard-hitting drama. It's a movie about two brothers from Hamilton, and I have two older brothers, and we kind of wanted to explore a crime caper cello film.
Yeah. Well, man, it's great. And you're so good at interviews and like segueing into actually questions that I have up here. It's like, so how much of like this brotherhood relationship is like, how much of this film is your actual history?
Well, I mean, in the fact that both Gary and I grew up in Hamilton, I mean, we always thought, if we ever made a movie here, let's set it as Hamilton, right? Because it's such a great town. You have the uptown where I grew up. I grew up right by Hill Park, and then downtown. And for those in maybe in Manitoba or Winnipeg, Hamilton has a large escarpment. So there's a literal division between uptown and downtown. Oh. So when I was growing up, I always thought every city had an uptown and downtown. If you went downtown, you literally had to go down. We call it a mountain, and it's kind of a hill. So we kind of just started crafting a crime story based around these two kids that we knew, Max and Theo. And Gary actually, I was doing This Hour is 22 Minutes out in Halifax, and Gary flew out. This must have been 2017. He flew out while I was shooting it because I usually had days off where we could write. So we actually started to break the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back after I finished that. We started really fleshing out the script and the story. And then at one point, I turned to Gary and I'm like, dude, do we even know if Max and Theo want to do this? Like, can they act? Are they like, we've just spent a couple months breaking the story and we haven't even talked to these. And it, if we didn't get them, we didn't have a movie, right? Because how are we going to cast two Japanese Canadian brothers that play cello and Hamilton? It was specifically for them. So we had a coffee with them and their mom because we wanted to make sure they were younger at the time, I think they were 17 and 19 when we started putting this together. So we brought their parents in early just to get the sign off, because I've worked with a lot of younger actors, and I knew the pressure of carrying a movie would be great. So we wanted to make sure the family was cool with this. And not only were they cool with it, their dad, Ed Elke, ends up being cast as their uncle, just Jimmy. So their dad is actually in the movie, not as their dad. Their dad is played by Rhett Morita, who is he's actually a cinematographer, but now he's segued into acting after this film. But they're, just Jimmy, the assassin from Vancouver in the film, that's their actual dad. So we kind of put this whole idea together, pitched it to them. They loved it. We wrote a small scene to audition them because, again, we didn't know if they could act, right? They've never acted before. They didn't even do drama in high school. If you're interested in acting, you're an actor as well, right? Did you in high school, were you in plays and stuff like that?
No, but it's like, I'm a little older now. I've had experience. So
yeah, but you know what it's like. It's like usually if especially if they're young performers, they would have showed some interest in acting, but we didn't know if they could or not. They were great cello performers though. And I think that's what got them ready to take on the characters, be able to memorize so many lines and scenes all at once and write all the music that's in the film.
Yeah. To be honest, I almost think like as an actor, and there's this great reference that I had from this, back in the day, 20 years ago, I used to be a bartender, and the bartender was like, have you ever mixed drinks before? And I didn't drink at the time. So I'm like, no. He's like, perfect. Because I think that's almost when they're young. Like, I almost feel that if they would have went through acting school, they would have had like jazz hands in a way. And it's because they're smart kids, obviously, right?
And we only had them for August of 2018 because they were going to McMaster University for engineering. I mean, they're incredibly smart people. Like Max and Theo are just incredibly brilliant. The nicest humans you'd want to meet. Very talented. And they really, and Sarah Suku says, great movie. Thank you, Sarah, for watching. Max and Theo really rose to the challenge. And like, not only do they have to carry an entire feature film, but they also have to play their instruments in it. And then they had to write all this music that they perform in the film weeks before we even went to camera, right? So there was a lot of work that they had to do.
Wow, that's amazing that they wrote all the cello music was them, like from scratch.
No, even all the score. So there's a couple of needle drops. We have songs from the Arkells. We have a song from Jane's Party, Peacemaker, and then we have we got the rights to Things to Do for Money, which is an original track from the Northern Pikes, right? Which is a band that I grew up, loving. Teen Land, Things to Do for Money. I actually did a music video for Jay Semko, the lead singer of the Northern Pikes.
Oh wow!
And we were able to get the rights for Things to Do for Money, the song, for the boys to do a cover for, and then Jay graciously re-recorded the vocals, and the end credits of the movie has Jay Semko from the Northern Pikes singing Things I Do for Money, the cello version that Max and Theo put together. But all the rest of the actual score, and it's not just cello, like they play guitars, they do drums. There's a pop song, which is kind of the love theme for Yodette Teodoros and Theo Aoki. Their theme song is a song that Theo actually wrote and sings on. So
wow,
they're legit talents. It was pretty amazing to watch them do their work.
Yeah, and I thought about that, and it's funny that you said they're real brothers, because I looked at them like, there's no way these guys are brothers.
Really?
No, I don't know. I almost thought that they were too nice to each other. I mean, in a way,
Right.
like, because real brothers are just like, I mean, it's different. It's acting, right? And it's a different scenario.
They are very nice to each other. I mean, they love each other, and their love is real. I think when Gary and I were writing the script, we wanted to make sure we were playing into their strengths, because Max is the older brother. He plays Nick Yaguchi, sort of the fuck up of the family, and he's kind of starting to get into bad stuff with Alexi at the bar and everything. And then Theo plays Eli, who's sort of the prototypical younger brother, a little bit unsure of himself, a little nerdy, kind of me when I was young, kind of awkward. But the love that Eli has for Nick, I mean, he literally does all this stuff in the movie. He comes up with the caper, he comes up with the performance, he comes up with all these things basically to save his brother from a life of crime, of being sucked into sort of Brenda's underworld. And in a lot of ways, Max and Theo as real brothers, they're kind of like that. I mean, Max is outgoing. He's a good-looking young man, and at McMaster University, he's very popular, and and Theo really looks up to him. And when you see them perform, I think this is the most interesting part as real life brothers. They perform, and this is true for when they're always performing their cello pieces in concert, because they do a lot of performance in real life. You see them just look at each other, and it's just this unspoken sort of observation that Theo especially does to Max to understand when they're going to change augmentation of their bows, when they're going to change rhythms, because it's they don't write or read music. Well, they read music. I think they can read music, but they don't write all the music that they wrote for the film, including that 6-minute finale piece, which I think is an extraordinary piece of cello music. They do it by memory. Like they didn't write a single note. It's kind of like a Jay-Z thing, like no pen, no paper. They just spit it out.
Man, that's crazy. Wow. So how long did it take you to shoot this film?
So it was the summer of 2018, and I literally had like a 3-week span before I lost them to going back to university. We shot the film in 13 main unit days, and then 2 pickup days where we did a lot of the driving stuff and establishers and some of the drone stuff. So it was whirlwind. When you think of a 13-day shoot, and listen, a lot of my peer group, the friends I'm with, we do a lot of low budget movies, like micro budget films, and we're used to doing 10, 12, 13, 15-day shoots. But Things I Do was, for me, so unique because we just went for it. Like very, very rarely do I get a chance to kind of sit there and really swing, take a real hard hack at the ball, like aiming for the fences. And with Things to Do, I felt, not that we hit a home run, but I was aiming for, I was not going up there just to bunt the ball to first base and advance the runner. I was going there to make something I don't think anybody else could make. And whether we succeeded or not depends on if you enjoyed the movie or not. But there's like 35 locations in this film, and over 50 speaking parts, 144 background performers, We shot it in 13 days, 6 cello performances, 5 action sequences, and we made it for $160,000, and it was the best experience I've had in my career. In that we controlled everything. We actually went out and made a movie we wanted to make, and I was very proud of the team and everybody that came together for it.
Wow, that's great. Well, you made a great movie, man, and it's as a filmmaker and just anyone in general, like who knows what work is, like after just hearing what goes into it all. And for me as an actor personally, it's just to know that those guys had never acted before, and that's all about the director, right? Like
No. I think it was about them. I really think.
You think?
That, for me, directing, whether it's Max and Theo had never acted before, or someone like Mary Walsh or Dave Foley or Ron Perlman, a lot of times the director has to get out of the way of the actor and let them discover where they're going, and then gently suggest things and give them little adjustments to keep them on the journey that we're on. And with Max and Theo, most of it was just giving them positive reinforcement, making sure that they knew they were on the right track, and they responded to it. It's kind of like the way they perform, right? When they feel the energy of the audience, when they know that the audience is right there with them. And, we saw it when they were performing the finale piece. We actually had 60 extras in that mansion with us, and they performed that piece like for real, probably 10 times. And it's a 6-minute song. So just do the math. That's an hour of straight out performance. And it's intense performance, right? Like when Max is sweating on stage, it's not fake. He's literally drenching himself. For me, it was mostly keeping them motivated and keeping them, knowing that they're doing good work.
That's awesome. This obviously is FascinAsian. And you purposely did Japanese Canadian film. I'm actually Chinese. I spent 18 years in China, so I am very Chinese. I'm very half and half. I don't know how much. This is another personal question, but how much do you feel that you're like Japanese and Canadian? Like how does it go with you?
That's a very fair question. I'm fully Japanese in terms of like my mom and dad are Canadian, but they're Japanese. My grandparents were from Japan, but this is how and Asian Heritage Month is great because we can find out about everything about the different types of Asian cultures: East Asian, Pacific Islander, Southeast Asian. Like there's and someone from China is different than someone from Japan, and then the diaspora in Canada is different than those from China and Japan, or Vietnam or Korea or wherever you're from. The Japanese Canadian experience is unique in that for us, it's really defined by World War II and the internment, right? Because that was kind of a definitive moment for my parents, my mom and dad, and subsequently all of us, like all my brothers and my cousins and my and even now. So I'm third generation. I'm called Sansei. The fourth generations is Yonsei. Like even my nieces and then my grand nieces and nephews, they whether they know it or not, they're all affected by this one specific thing that happened in World War II, which was the internment of the Japanese, where everybody of Japanese descent were put in basically prison camps, right? Work internment camps, work camps, basically old mining towns in the interior of BC, where everything that they had, like my mom's side was pretty well off. I mean, they had a record player. I remember my mom telling me how the RCMP came and took everything. A lot of stuff they entrusted to some of the Hakushin, the white people that were in BC to look after their stuff, and then subsequently it was all sort of either sold off, at rock bottom prices, or taken, or so. So to answer your question, this is the long way of answering your question of how how Japanese am I. The majority of Sansei that I know in my, in Japanese in their 30s and 40s, we're not very, in that we were never taught Japanese. When I was growing up in the 80s in Hamilton, my parents were like, here's a good example. So my name's Warren. Yes. My two older brothers are Ron and Bob. Right? Warren, Ron, and Bob. Three of the, whitest sounding names you could think of after Ronald Reagan, Robert Stack, and Warren Beatty, right? Because my mom loves, famous Hollywood actors. Movie stars, yeah. And, there was this, it was never a overt or very heavy-handed way of, or a message to me and my brothers, but it was, now that I'm older, it was clear looking back. It's like, don't stand out, don't get bullied, don't get beat up.
Oh, really?
Like assimilate so that you don't rock the boat, because for them, my mom was 6 when the camps opened. And then she was, 10, 11 when they closed. Her formative years were spent not rocking the boat, like literally being in curfew and being in a position where, don't cause any trouble, or else you'll get into real trouble. The RCMP will do something. The BC government will look unfavorably, and I guess the unconscious fear of like, oh my God, if this happens to our kids, that would be it. So this is one of the first things I've done creatively to sort of reconnect with my Japaneseness. And it's ironic because it's like, it's not a deep dramatic film the way an exploration of being the diaspora of Japanese in Canada you might think. But for me, what I like about it as a storyteller or as a filmmaker is like, filmmakers have been telling crime films and caper films forever. Why can't I add to that?
Yeah.
And as light or as heavy as I want to be within the story, it just happens to be about this family that's Japanese Canadian. And that's the subtleness of that, or the subversiveness of that, is the thing that I thought was interesting. And then Gary and I sort of wrote this sort of fun, very layered story involving a whole shit ton of characters that kind of converge onto this one thing. There's a question in the chat about it converges on this painting, on this $8 million root and sour painting. And the question was, were there any spots to display the multi-million-dollar painting besides right by the patio door? And I just want to answer this because
I do it.
This is a great question. It's the first time it's been asked in all the Q&As I've done. And it's like, I get it. I get how asinine that might seem. But when you think about it, and when Gary and I were kind of researching heists, most heists are kind of like that. It just, there's a distraction and the thing's taken. And by the time you realize it's gone, the whatever they're trying to get is out. And I'm not talking about stealing something from the Louvre, right? I'm just talking about like stealing something off of someone's wall or whatever. And the way we blocked the scene, all eyes were going to be on Eli and Nick Yaguchi while they were playing the cello. So naturally, the only place to put this painting would be on the other side, coincidentally by the patio door. So that's why it was there.
No, that's cool. Going back to what you're talking about, like thanks for the question, Jia. I actually know Jia.
Okay.
Good
Yes.
question.
It's a totally fair question.
Yeah.
We tried to set it up in the diner scene where they do the little explanation of what the heist is going to happen and how it's going to happen. And that is a direct sort of inspiration from the Titanic, where they basically show how the Titanic's going to rip apart with a 3D computer generated simulation in the first 20 minutes of the movie. So it's in your head, oh, this is the way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when it actually happens, in the Titanic, you're blown away. For us, it's like, let's set this up in the diner so people have an idea of how this is going to go down in the finale, and then we'll just twist the shit out of it with the final thing that happens.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
man, it's great. I just want to go back for a second when you're talking about. So basically, for me, I guess. And for all of us that are people of color doing movies and filmmaking, you've basically done what I believe that we all strive for, is that you made a movie that really doesn't have to have this deep, like, oh, it's Japanese, it's got to have all these ethnic values. It's like, no, man, it's like Chinese, Japanese, Thai, Filipino, Canadians, or American. We just live, like, it's just, they are that ethnicity, but the main focus is the story. It's not based on the heritage.
Usually it would be Irish guys in, Snatch or whatever, or it'd be Boston, but Southies, in the town or something, right? In these crime movies, these criminals and good guys or conflicted good guys get to operate and have all the conventions of a crime caper movie. This just happens to be about a family that's Japanese Canadian. And I know, because listen, we read our press, we read our reviews, and I know there's been a lot of talk about like, oh, we wish this movie was just about the Japanese experience. Why did they have to put all this stupid crime stuff on it? And like,
oh my God.
Well, no, it's true. It's like, I get it. That's a fair question. And for me, it's like, I wanted to make a caper film. I want to make a crime film, and I've done genre before. I've done a horror movie. I've done an action film, done a lot of comedy. I do kids. I mean, I kind of, I'm, and knock on wood, I'm very thankful that I've been able to, it's like I've won an award at the Christian Film Festival, and I have the Guinness Book of World Records for the most amount of swears in a movie for swearing at the movie. So I've been able to kind of go in between genres and styles and different stories that I've been able to tell. And this one was just something that we wanted to do and have a lot of fun doing it. Because if you're going to really make a movie and put your own money into it and beg, friends and family to invest in an Indiegogo, and then, convince an intrepid band of a crew and craftspeople and cast to give me their summer. Let's at least have fun doing it. Let's at least make something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just gonna answer this. We'll ask this question. Like, Sarah Suku,
yes.
That's your friend. You know her?
No, but she said it was a great movie, so she's an instant friend.
Oh, perfect. Well, the question is, who are your idols growing up that made you develop your love of filmmaking?
Oh, yeah. Well, so growing up, I was a small child in the 70s, an older child in the 80s, formative, person in the 90s. So it definitely was George Lucas, Star Wars, Spielberg, Coppola when I was older, but I was really it was really Star Wars was it for me, right? Because I was my two older brothers, and my two older brothers are really older. They're like 10 and 11 years older than me. So man. I'm kind of like the happy surprise of the family. And the good thing about having older brothers that are 10, 11 years older than you is when I was 10, they were 20, right? So they would take me out everywhere where they were going as 20-year-olds.
Cool.
And I was allowed to go because my parents, I'm with my brothers, and I just remember them taking the first movie I think I really remember going to was Star Wars at the Tivoli in Hamilton, Ontario in the summer of 70, was it 76 when it came out?
I think it was 76, the first
Yeah.
one.
I must have been three or four or something like that. And all I remember was eating orange creamsicles outside in the hot street. And then they took me to see it, I think 3 times that day.
What?
Yeah. And then when I was 10, when I was in grade 5, the very first movie I ever made was something called Escape from Space, which was this stop motion Star Wars, wannabe, 10-year-old making something with a Super 8 camera. So, yes, Sarah, my instant BFF, it definitely a child of the Spielberg generation, and the sense of wonderment that he had in films like Close Encounters and E.T. I mean, it was fantastic. But then as you get older, you grow with your idols, right? Like people that were fans of the Beatles when they first came out, grew when John Lennon became an artist and did his solo stuff. So when Spielberg came out with something like Schindler's List, or where, when I got into stuff like Spike Lee and Oliver Stone, and then I remember being at Ryerson when Reservoir Dogs came out.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, when I was in film school, that was it. Like he made the movie we all wanted to make. It's like a 1-room location film that just kicked you right between the legs in terms of how powerful it was with his storytelling ability. So yeah, those were all influences.
Oh, that's awesome. So was it a conscious decision for you to become a director? Like you're like, I'm going to be a director.
Yeah, I mean,
organically?
I made a movie in grade 5, the Escape from Space. It was 24 minutes long. It was all Super 8. And I don't remember going to class in grade 5. I just remember convincing my and I had an amazing teacher, Mr. Allen. You know how we all have a Mr. Holland in our lives?
Yes.
We all have that one teacher that, like, without that one teacher, and I hope most children have this because it's so important. And teachers right now, because of the pandemic, pay them all the money. They deserve all the money because of how important they are, and how messed up the pandemic has been on them and on how they've been able to do their work. But Mr. Allen was my teacher that without him I might have taken a different route, but he just allowed me to make this movie when I was 10, and it changed. I just realized this is what I want to do. And then slowly over the years in high school, I did a Chiclets commercial for J. Walter Thompson when I was in grade 11. And then by the time I was in grade 12, I did a CBC show called Life the Program. And I directed sort of the teen segments for that show. So I kind of knew, like, by the time I got to Ryerson, not only did I know I wanted to be a director, I had the arrogance and the cockiness of having directed before and thinking I knew everything. And it took the next 25 years to make me humble and understanding that I know nothing. And, you constantly have to learn and be curious and not sit back and get complacent and be, very appreciative of the chances that you get.
Well, they say better 25 years than never.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that would have been a crazy thing for you to be 17 doing a segment for CBC too, right? Like that would be
it's funny. Thing. I grew up with my best friends, Kevin, Nathan, Andre, and Jason. And Jason and Andre and myself went to Ryerson. They went into Ryerson Theater School because they were actors. And but Jason became such an influence in my life because he also wrote my first film, Ham and Cheese. And Jason was one of the constant subjects in grade 12 when I was doing the CBC show that I would film. I basically filmed him cheating on a math test, and it got on air on national television on this national show called Life the Program for CBC, which actually got nominated for a Gemini. And he's like writing like stuff on the back of this calculator. He'd kill me if he knew I was telling the story. And in this segment, he says, "Oh my God, it'd be hilarious if Mr. McDonald saw this on TV." And Mr. McDonald did see him on TV, asked him what he was doing, and we basically had to lie and say, "Oh no, we were doing it for the camera. He wasn't cheating whatsoever."
Oh.
But Jason is Jason Jones, who became Jason Jones of The Daily Show. He was the creator of the TV show called Detour. He married Samantha Bee. Samantha Bee has the best late night talk show, the Samantha Bee Show. And Jason was like a friend growing up. So it was a really early lesson in that, especially for filmmakers, it's like surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
Like just find really good people, talented people, and make them your best friends. You know, if you're not a writer, go out and find a writer and make them your best friend. If you're not an editor, go out and find an editor, make them your best friend. And I've done that throughout my life, and it's been so rewarding to be able to call some of the most talented people out there making movies and doing TV and friends. You know, because it's, you know, I think the one thing we don't know when we first get into this is, yeah, it's a career. Yes, they're jobs and everything, but this is going to be your life. This will be not just your life's work in terms of the projects you do. And I look back on something like Things I Do for Money, and I'm very proud of it. But like, I will be lifelong friends with the cinematographer Christoph Benfey because of the shit that we had to go through to make this movie, right? Of the countless hours I spent in Anna Catley's edit suite cutting this film with her. I owe her so much, and whenever she calls for a question or what, I'm always there because those are the people that you've walked through fire and crossed water for. So that was a valuable lesson ever since I was young. It's just surround yourself with good people and make them your friends.
Yeah, I think, man, I really feel that's a valuable lesson. Like for me as well. I mean, for anyone, is that like. It's all about the human connection and making relationships, and one thing you just said, you said you had the most fun. I feel that, like, man, that's for me also, that's a really important lesson is like, man, you gotta have fun. If you're not having fun, then what are we doing? Right? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, yeah. And, listen, it's stressful making movies and doing television and shooting short films and web series and commercials and music videos and everything. But like, the moments I really remember are the moments where you can take a step back and go, we're doing the great pretend right now. We are making something out of nothing, and it's up to us to tell the story. And like, I noticed a friend of mine, Michael Spraga, hopped on. I don't know if Michael, you're still on watching this live stream, but Michael wrote Servitude, which is a movie that I directed. And because I was a keg waiter and he was a keg waiter, and like, we just kind of like made a movie about waitering, and how fun it is to put all your waitering trauma on the screen as to, and have fun in a comedy to do something. So yeah, if you don't have a sense of wonder and curiosity and respect, especially that, and kindness when you're doing these things, then and it's something we all need to work hard at, because it does get stressful. You always run out of time. You're always trying to get that extra shot, and sometimes you got to temper yourself with reminding yourself that what we do is not everybody gets a chance to do it. So when you get a chance to do it, you should be very thankful.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice. Sparking this other thing, I just thought about this now. I mean, I have some couple quotes here that I kind of researched. So I typically what happens. I mean, you're already famous in the directing Canadian realm, and as a director. So, no,
well, no, I don't know if I'm famous. What I do, I have a lot of friends, and they keep me very, very humble.
but so typically the way things happen is like the more famous you get, the more people are like, oh, Warren, what else did he do? So they're gonna, as me as well. Like I'm gonna start going back and watching the films that you've made, right? So I have I researched this great quote about ham and cheese because you just mentioned ham and cheese.
Okay.
The quote is from, I'm assuming a press or a newspaper or a review. It says, an indie love letter to actors that Variety hailed as a must-see.
Right. So yes, I think somewhere in their review they said must-see in some connotation, like you must see this after you go to the washroom or something. So like, we pull back. No, honestly, ham and cheese is a great example for filmmakers when they're making their first film to just go out and do it. Because I had been writing films and writing scripts for years and years and years and years. And I had been directing music videos. Actually, when we did Ham and Cheese, I had just directed my 100th music video. It was for an artist named Joel Croker, and we actually put that song in the movie because it just timed out that I needed a ballad. I did a ballad for him. So, but I was probably 50 music videos too long in the music video world. You know what I mean? Like I could have gotten out a lot sooner, but the money was great in the 90s, and it's hard to turn down jobs. Yeah. But it was a great lesson in that sometimes you really have to take 20 steps back to take that first step forward. And Ham and Cheese was for me that, in that, I mean, Ham and Cheese is not a perfect movie. It's not a great movie, but it's
don't say that. I'm trying to sell this movie here.
Yeah, well, listen, it's very quaint. I'm sure when you watch it, it will be like, well, this hasn't aged well. But we made this thing. I think we made it for like $14,000.
Whoa!
My executive producer to this day will probably say it cost like $200,000, but like I was the one buying the water and the food and the pizza, and really? it was like $15,000.
Wow!
And it was about these two awful actors, Jason Jones and Mike Beaver, and just their awful acting and how they were just terrible actors and how they were trying to make it in the world of showbiz. But we just had a great cast. I mean, Mike is hilarious. Jason and Samantha Bee had just gotten on the Daily Show, and she was in it. Dave Foley and Scott Thompson for The Kids in the Hall. Pauly Shannon. Just a great array of people. And the right Michael D. Reed, the Victoria Times columnist, was also writing for Variety on the West Coast. And he came to see our film at the Victoria Film Festival. This is the first film festival I ever went to.
Wow.
Ham and Cheese was turned down by every other film festival, but for whatever reason, Victoria Film Festival liked it and programmed it. Thank you so much, Kathy Kay and everybody at the Victoria Film Festival for programming it. We flew out. I flew out with the beta tape.
Whoa.
With it finished, because it was not done. It literally came out of the beta SP player in Toronto into a cassette case, ran downstairs into a waiting cab, drove to the airport, got on a plane, flew to Vancouver, got off the plane there, did an interview with Terry David Mulligan for Much Music, got into another car, got to the ferry that took me to Victoria on Vancouver Island. And then I gave the beta tape over to the Victoria Film Festival person. It went to the theater. I went to do, I guess, check in and get my bag and passes and everything. Literally just stumbled into the theater, having no sleep or whatever. Premiered it, going, I haven't even watched this tape. I have no idea if it actually went down. I don't know if there's going to be, I hope there's sound and picture. And thankfully, except for one scene, all the music cut out for one scene. It didn't lay down for whatever reason, but thankfully by that time the audience was into it. And anyway, long story short, we finished that, went out and kind of said it was a must see. Like, it was one of those variety reviews that, like, 2 weeks later, Fox Searchlight and Paramount, and like I flew to New York to meet the head of production at Miramax, not Harvey, but one of the executives there. It was one of those life-changing things. And had I been waiting for the perfect movie to make, I might be one of the most prolific music video directors in Canada. You know what I mean? Like, I still might be doing music videos if I didn't take a chance on something that was not quite ready, but like ready enough for me to and challenging enough to try to go and make. So that was ham and that was the experience of making Ham and Cheese.
I mean, that's like, man, I hope you've never told that story before. So we got some like cool juice.
Yeah, I
maybe you have
iterations of it for sure. The whole idea of like, you know, unless you're a certified genius, and we certainly have filmmakers in this country who are just brilliant. You know, I just saw Wendy Morgan's Sugar Daddy that Kelly McCormack wrote and stars in, and it's brilliant. You know, there's people that come right out of the gate and make something so substantial that you can't, like, Tracy Deer just did Beans. It's just a phenomenal piece of filmmaking. Gloria Kim has Queen of the Morning Calm playing at FascinAsian, and you know, just a wonderful, beautiful, harrowing story. For me, it was just important to do the work and get better at it. And slowly but surely, you know, knock on wood, over the years, I've been able to do that. And Ham and Cheese is an example of like, it's not a great movie, but some people like it, you know, and just the right people liked it enough to get me in my next film. And then that got me the next film, and so on and so on.
Well, that's cool. I think you have a lot of in common with George Lucas, because I'm pretty sure I've watched him interviews where he's like on the red carpet and like, how do you think the movie's gonna be? He's like, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. And he walks he walks to the theater. You know, it was one of the Star Wars. I can't remember which one. He's like, I haven't seen it.
That might be the only similarity I have with George Lucas. He's not seeing my film before screening it in front of an audience. But yeah, no, it's pretty wild. I think once you have done a certain amount of work and can look back, you can kind of see, you know, and I'm sure you can do it too, Chelsey. It's like the moments where, had you just stayed home, you know, and not gotten off the couch and not gone to that premiere or gone to that party or gone to that meeting, something might have changed. We were just talking in the preamble how, you know, we missed each other at Whistler, right? Yes. And many times I found, this is another you know, lesson I've learned for filmmakers that tune in and listen to us here, is you just got to show up. Yeah. You know, you literally have to show up to things, and it's harder, you know, obviously in COVID, that's not, although it's actually easier because of Zoom to show up to things
now. Yeah.
But like, the biggest thing I've ever worked on was Trailer Park Boys. And the way I got that was I went to coffee with a producer named Bill Marks, you know, 7 years before the Trailer Park Boys were going to reboot the series and make the movie SwearNet. And like, had I not gotten out of bed, put on some clothes and went to coffee and not be an asshole at the coffee, I would have never gotten that call. So like, showing up and doing these things, and that's why I love doing Q&As and talking to people like yourself, is like, you get to keep the conversation going. And these conversations are important. The more I do this, the more I realize the real things get done over coffee when you're talking to someone. Wow. You know, when you're planning something, when you're talking about, when you're having the dialogue about the Canadian film industry, those things happen when people show up.
Wow, that's great. Well, even though you just answered that question, because we're getting to the end of time here, I'm just gonna ask you one last question, which I think You just answered it, but I'm gonna ask you again. What's the best advice you could give to anyone? I would say in life in general, even though you just answered it, or best advice you've ever been given in filmmaking, film or directing or life. What would those be?
I would say, I would say I've learned, and this is recent learning, but and it's come out of a lot of things. I mean, the pandemic has been really hard and awful, and obviously our hearts go out to the people that have gotten sick or have lost people during the pandemic. But it's also given us the ability to figure out who we really are as a society, as peoples, and I mean, listen, it's Asian Heritage Month. We're at FascinAsian. It'd be remiss for us not to talk about the Asian hate that's been not just bubbling under, but like really out there in the open. I think the one thing I've learned, and especially in the last 6 months, is just how important it is to be kind and to be understanding and to take time for yourself and for your family and for your loved ones, because your health and your relationships with your loved ones is the most important thing, and we lose sight of that in film. Right? It's like I'd be bullshitting you if I said, oh no, I have a great work-life balance, because I couldn't have done what I've done if I wasn't focused on one thing for the majority of my life. But as I'm kind of in the middle right now, I'm kind of like smack in the middle of my career, and I'm at this point, and knock on wood, where I'm doing pretty good, and I'm in a position to talk to other people and help and be helped, and do things for others and do things for the community and the industry. The one thing I think we all lose sight on, and you tell me too, it's like how much of a grind it is, and how much we don't spend time on things that are very important, which is our family and our loved ones. You know what I mean? I think that's it. Which is probably not the advice that you were looking for. It was more practical terms, like, in comedy movies, shoot wide, shoot two eyes, make sure you get, entrances and exits. Those things you learn. You can learn crafts, you can learn execution and how to get the most out of actors and all that kind of stuff. What's hard to learn is like, you can never materialize time. You can never buy relationships, and those things are just so important.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, for me personally, I'm like right along what you think. It's all about friends and family, and just being a nice guy, a nice guy or girl, just be nice, like.
Well,
nice
and like, if we look at the best and worst of us in the pandemic, I mean, we've seen some awful things, and we're seeing, especially right now, a lot of people that are, angry, or they're over it, they're exhausted, and they're taking it out on other people. We're seeing people, my heart goes out to, they just found a mass grave at an Indigenous school. When you really get to the point where you can start taking stock, I think you just kind of look back and go, well, what have you done, and what can you do to put some good in the world? And sometimes it's just the art. Sometimes it's just the, we just won a CSA for Odd Squad, which is a kids show, right? And I love doing kids shows. I think when I'm much older, and we look back on the arc of her career, I will probably be most proud of the children's and youth stories that I've been able and had the honor to tell, because oh my God, it's so great to hear messages from kids. The founder of the Canadian Film Fest, who's a good friend of mine, Bern Euler, has a young daughter named Violet, and she just found out I directed Odd Squad, and she's a huge Odd Squad fan. So she sent me this like video of like, oh my God, I love Odd Squad, I love it. And, you know, I mean, that is so rewarding and so incredibly special, you know? So those are the things that I think I'll look back on, and certainly if this was in real life and being able to be at FascinAsian and, you know, have a moment to cheers our Coca-Colas together at the festival party would have been really great. But this is a good substitute.
Okay. Well, great. Man, Warren, that was so great. So much great advice. Thank you once again from everyone here at FascinAsian. Yeah, for everyone, I'm gonna let you go and relax and take the rest of the night off. But thank you so much for this interview, and enjoy the festival.
Yes, I can't wait. And please, for those of you that are watching, check out Gloria Kim's movie. It's absolutely brilliant. You cannot go wrong. Queen of the Morning Calm. I think that's up tomorrow. So check that out.
Okay, will do.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So once again, if you haven't watched Warren's film yet, you can do it this weekend here at FascinAsian. Things I Do for Money. You can catch it all weekend long here on our platform, and the link is in the description below. So once again, a special thank you to the Directors Guild of Canada, Manitoba District Council for sponsoring this event, and to all of our amazing sponsors and partners for this festival. We have a full day of planning tomorrow for you, starting off at 10:30 in the morning with a Kick, Punch, Action, a martial arts choreography virtual workshop, which will be pretty interesting. So check FascinAsian.ca for a full program. So, final thanks for all of you watching at homes tonight. Have a good night. My name is Chelsey Mark, and we will see you this weekend at FascinAsian. Bye-bye.